A Subaru is kind of like a best friend that you don't see that often, but when you do, it's like no time has passed. Every Subaru has its own distinct personality, like the 3-row Ascent is great for family life. And then there's the Crosstrek, which is also pretty good, except my family couldn't fit into it when we tested it last year. There's also the Outback, which fits somewhere in between, but for 2026, it loses its wagony looks. And behind me here is a 2025 Subaru Forester. It's a really good SUV, but it's surrounded in a sea of tons of competitors, which includes things like the Toyota RAV4 and Honda CR-V. The Subaru Forester is kind of cool because it's like that friend that you've met for the very first time and have an instant connection with. All 2025 Subaru Foresters are powered by a 2.5-liter 4-cylinder boxer mated to a continuously variable transmission. Subaru's symmetrical all-wheel drive non-hybrids make 180 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque. The hybrid models add some electricity to the mix to up the numbers to 194 horsepower. So the pickup in this SUV is not that great, but it's also not the worst. The hybrid powertrain helps it a little bit. It struggles a tiny bit when you're on the highway trying to get up to highway speeds. However, if you're just taking off from a traffic light, it's actually not that bad. And someone once called it fun. I wouldn't go that far, but it's not that bad. It's got a little pep to it. When you're driving on the highway, there's a bit of wind noise coming in, but it's not the worst, and it's easily blocked out if you turn up the volume on your radio, or if you are connected to wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You can just set up your Spotify list and listen to some songs on there and just tune it out. The Forester is extremely easy to park. I guess that's partially because I'm used to driving bigger cars like minivans. So this one is really easy to back into spaces. It's got a pretty good backup camera, minus the fact that it has a weird fisheye looking filter on it. One of the things that I don't like about the backup camera is the way it looks on the screen. In here you have that 11.6-inch tablet style screen, and the backup camera only shows on the top half of it. So you've got just wasted space at the bottom. You could have shown another camera view or another angle or something down there, since when you back up there are 2 views on the screen already. NRCan rates the Subaru Forester for 6.9 liters per 100 kilometers. That is slightly higher than its competitors, but it's not horrible. However, observed averages in this car over a week of driving it are closer to 7.5, and really I've seen 7.5 in heavier vehicles like the Toyota Sienna. So I think we can get a bit better numbers, but we'll have to see where that goes. Maybe a bit more highway driving will get that number down a little bit. The Subaru Forester is all new for 2025. The exterior got a bit of a makeover, but it doesn't mess much with its boxy shape. The dimensions get a bit bigger than the previous generations, and there's also a new front grille. If you've driven newer models from the Subaru lineup, then the Forester's interior will look familiar with this tablet-style infotainment screen. The infotainment screen in here is actually pretty easy to use. All the climate control buttons are pretty much located at the bottom of the screen, which if you prefer actual buttons, and you've got a couple right beside it, but you're pretty much out of luck. However, they stay on the bottom of the screen and they're not hard to find, and the buttons are pretty large, so you're not going to accidentally hit the wrong thing or miss it entirely. If you click the top of the climate controls, it opens up a bigger screen for a little bit more access to other functions in here. The one thing about this screen that I will note is it's a little bit laggy. It's a bit slow, which I've noted when I drove the Crosstrek as well. However, that's kind of a first world problem and it's not really a deal breaker. Another thing that's kind of slow is its wireless connection to Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. It does connect to it, but it takes a couple seconds, so you can't drive off right after turning on the car and expect to be connected to everything. It'll take a few minutes for it to set itself up. Let's talk about Subaru's EyeSight driver assist features. It's not as complicated or as advanced as, say, GM Super Cruise, but it is a great feature for some relief while driving on long stretches. If you turn it on, You can set adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, and it'll pretty much keep you in your lanes if you're on the highway and driving at certain speeds. However, you have to keep your hands on the wheel at all times or the vehicle will beep at you a lot, even more than it already does. The driver's seat in here is actually surprisingly comfortable. I don't know why I was expecting it to be a little bit less, but I think it would actually be really good on long drives. The top trim in here gets heated and ventilated seats. The rear seats also have heated seats on the outboard seats, but they don't get ventilated seats. When my kids first got into the car, their first note was that there's no third row, and because if there was, that would be the Ascent. However, I will say that this car has adequate space for my 3 kids. They might not feel the same way because shoulders do touch, but it gets it done and there's enough space for kids back there. There's a lot of cargo space back there. However, there's a little bit less space than what its competitors has. However, I don't think it's noticeable because it's so much flat space and it'll do fine if you need a Costco haul or if you have to fit a stroller back there. There's more than enough space. What competes with the Subaru Forester? A lot. There are a lot of competitors in this compact crossover segment. There are a lot that compare with the gas variant, but there are also quite a few that compare with this hybrid. And unfortunately, this hybrid variant is only available on the very top trim of this model, meaning that you're spending quite a bit more than some of the lower models. So the Toyota RAV4 is currently the best-selling compact crossover in Canada, and it's got a whole bunch of hybrids starting, I believe, at around $35,000. If you want the Subaru Forester hybrid, you're spending nearly $50,000 before freight and PDI fees. Other competitors in this segment include the Honda CR-V, the Ford Escape, the Mazda CX-5, the Hyundai Tucson, many of which have several hybrid options available, as well as even some plug-in hybrid options if that's what you're going for as well. The 2025 Subaru Forester is a great SUV. It's practical, it's simple, it's efficient, it's intuitive. However, so are so many of its competitors. There's the RAV4, there's the CR-V, there's the Ford Escape. There's so many competitors in this market that the Subaru has a hard time standing out. That said, there's a friendly charm about this Forester, and I like it for what it is. I think this is going to be the start of a beautiful friendship. For Driving.ca, I'm Renita Narain. For more SUV reviews and news, check us out on social media or on our website.